welcome back. I guess you guys want to hear this thing start up. It's the end of the day and I'm getting ready to head home, and people just seem to love that about this tractor. And I'll give you credit, startups do sound cool. Now this tractor is due for a date with the air hose and getting washed down. That mess down there is actually from getting the combine washed off the first time. That's right. The second time, actually, because it got washed last fall, albeit pretty poorly. And I'll take the blame for that because I'm the one that washed it. And it really just boils down to the fact that for how long and drawn out and miserable last fall was, it basically boiled down to where I hit the combine with the air hose, I hit it quick, just, zoop zoop, and called it good. Dang dog. That's a problem with having farm animals, pets that are tame. They just, like Rocket and Calvin, they stand underneath the equipment when you're driving around, and you gotta watch out for them. Because they know that you'll avoid them if you know that they're there. So, this is probably an inconvenient spot to park this, but it's inside. They're not calling for rain, or they are, but they aren't. And the reason I say that is we had a 50% chance of rain, and we got just enough to get the hood, the dust on the hood all stirred up. So the combine is in for not a whole lot. I mean, it's washed. I'm probably gonna hit it again almost certainly before harvest. But the thing that I got it out for, it's not that it needs a lot of work. The bean head does need a bunch of work. The contour master, which I've said it a couple times, basically since last fall, I wanna get this addressed. The contour master, this thing right here. See how it's actually sitting at an angle? You probably can't because it's a poor light. But this whole piece flexes back and forth, hence contour master. So you can keep your heads level with the ground. Really shines on soybean heads, flex heads. And the problem is when we go to raise or lower the feeder house, there is a hydraulic surge in that line that controls that contour, and it'll jerk the contour master left or right. I can't remember right now, and it's caused a lot of havoc. We did a band-aid fix, which we all figured it would have done a nice job of fixing the problem, but it just made it worse. So we've asked the local dealer, what their opinions were on what it would take to fix it, and it's just gotten to the point now we got to go through and put this thing back on. It was damaged last fall, got caught in a ditch. There were plenty of those to go around. Dad's got it all bent back straight. We just got to go through and weld up a brace on it, get it back on the bean head, get the bean head up here, and then have the dealership come down and look at it. Another thing that I'm going to be doing to the combine, outside of just your regular old oil filter, engine filter, or engine oil and fuel filters, air filters, changing those out if they need them, which generally we do. We'll change out the engine air filters. If they're not too terrible, I'll change them out before we start into corn, like after we finish soybeans, before we start in corn. But what I got right here is a $300 some kit that I probably paid too much for. Yep. But it is a side hill cleaning shoe modification kit. And you guys can kind of see what it is actually going to be doing. It splits up. That's a divider for the back end of the combine. The plastic piece goes down the middle. Let's see, this guy, I lied to you, that is not a piece of plastic, that is a piece of metal. And then we got these little flappers. We put the flappers in, and the flappers are going to help keep the grain from rushing over to one side of the back end of the cleaning shoe. So the reason I did this is because it's going to keep falling over too. It's been an issue ever since we got this combine, because we came from a 6620 side hill, and we were really used to the whole side hill thing. I mean, Dad, the first year that Dad ran this 9510 across the field, he had his foot braced against the door, just, you know, on our contours, because he was going around hills that he's never experienced the machine actually lean to one side or the other. I mean, on our steepest of hills, at least in the 6620, you were level. Well, Dad was braced pretty secure because he thought it was going over. I mean, duals would actually make this thing so much nicer. I got to be honest. But in the back end, because it isn't a side hill, it likes to lean, and when it leans, all of the material, oh, we're gonna look at a mess. See, that's dirt and debris from remnants of last fall yet. I gotta go through and cut all of the silks off and clean out all that dirt and crap, but that will get done, don't worry. That metal divider is gonna go in the middle, and it's gonna have paddles that are hooked up to it. And what it does is it actually keeps the grain, as it's being cleaned, it's being, you know, walked out the back. It keeps it from running all to one side of the back end, and then it reduces its ability to actually clean the grain and sort out the trash or the residue from the grain. Because I've seen it in the past, it drives me crazy, drives us all crazy, when we're going around some of our contours and you can see the grain coming out on the sides and hitting this, and you can see the grain flying out the back end. We've tried everything outside of trying that to keep it from doing that. I've ran it with the fingers or the back end, the sieve and the chaffer all the way open, and outside of going about a half mile an hour, so there's hardly any material going through the machine. That's about the only way it's really going to help, but let's be realistic. You can't harvest going 1 mile an hour with a 6-row machine and a 20-foot bean head, because you simply wouldn't get done. You wouldn't. It's just long story short. So I'm going to be installing that. I'll probably show you guys what it looks like after the fact. I'm going to clean out the cab. I'm going to clean the machine again. I got to clean the back end out. It's just that I wanted to go through and get all the dirt and dust that has accumulated since last fall off the machine, so I can start to work on it. It'll be greased and it'll be ready to go. Now, the reason it's out is simply because it is the end of August, and the fact that we are looking at potentially a month from now, we could be in the field harvesting. Soybeans were pretty far along. Corn is damaged, but not enough to the point where the insurance really is willing to do anything about it. I mean, it's not the adjuster's fault. I guess it's just how insurance is set up, which takes me back to the original statement of why bother with insurance? Well, I'm required to have insurance, I don't get a choice. But the problem is, it's really only good if you have like a complete crop failure. I'm talking about those fields out in Iowa where they're actually, I saw some pictures already where guys have already disked down their standing fields that are meant for grain production. Granted, we haven't had anything like that. We haven't had anything for broken off plants. Our corn is literally just tipped over. So the plants are probably 10 foot tall, and with all that wind, the roots, unfortunately, even though it's late enough in the season, they should have been braced up and really shouldn't have had any issue with it. But when you're talking about 80 to 108 mile an hour winds, I mean, you can only expect it to do so much. So a lot of our plants are tilted over. I did price out a corn reel for the corn head. I haven't purchased one, largely because we only have about 100 acres that are immediately affected by the wind damage, and I have an alternate route I can go if we cannot, or we start banging our head against the window too much with trying to combine our corn at the home farm and some of my corn with our corn head. I may go through on the metal snoots and put some of that graphite on it to slicken them up a little bit. But some of you are probably wondering, it's late enough in the video, you probably aren't still here, like the Rockville farm. It's the farm that got the most damage. Why don't we just go ahead and chop it? Why don't we go ahead and chop all the corn here and feed it to our cows or sell it to a local? The reason we don't do that is because we need the grain, basically the cash flow. Long story short, I'd rather go through and harvest what we can, which we're not looking at 50% damage. I don't feel. We got some spots that are worse than others. Then we do have some areas that I do believe that if we're going the right direction, which is going to be another issue, annoyance, we are probably going to be harvesting a fair amount of that 100 acres that has this damage one direction. So it's tilting into the corn head, so that way the snoots can kind of angle it in whatever direction it needs to and pull it down through the rolls. I don't really feel that if we're trying to drive through it, like harvesting soybeans that are leaning away from you, you lose yield. They say it can be up to 5 to 10 bushels an acre in soybeans harvesting the wrong direction, one direction as opposed to the other. Corn this year, for these 100 acres, it's looking like that may be a thing. Now, if I got to go through and drive 1 mile an hour, going all the way around the field, deadheading it half the time, to go to the other end of the field and harvest the whole farm one direction, you know, dang it, I will. I'm just stubborn like that. And, you know, it's the difference between 100 bushels to the acre or 200 bushels to the acre. So 100 acres, it's worth the aggravation to get everything you can. Because like I said, with crop insurance, we didn't have the green snap that is required to get any sort of wind damage insurance coverage, and the only thing that's really holding us out now is that if the plants end up completely flat on the ground and the ears are flat out unharvestable, and I don't know if that's really going to be the case. I mean, they're not completely flat on the ground. We have some spots where it's flat, but still possible to at least get something out of it. So we'll know in about another month or two. I mean, soybeans I'm pretty certain will be going through first, but as far as the corn, I wasn't looking forward to harvest this fall to begin with, and I'm not looking forward to it anymore now. So as far as chopping it, I was told that as far as those self-propelled choppers with multi-directional heads, those Kemper heads, I was told that when corn is blown over like that and it's on the ground, those do not pick up the corn any better than a snoot machine, than a corn head will pick it up. They say it won't. You think it will, but it won't. They said that your only way to get any amount of the crop that's already on the ground, as low as it is to go through it with a snoot header. A snoot is, you know, with the cones going underneath it like our corn head. Those Kemper heads, they generally keep them a foot off the ground. They don't run them right on the ground, because if you run a rock or a stump or a stick or something into those, mess up your teeth, mess up your cutter. I mean, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage, and the self-propelled, the custom guys that run those machines simply won't risk it. They won't. And as far as if we did go through and chop a bunch of silage and feeding it back out through our cows, at this point in time, I really don't feel like we'll be getting our money back out of it. I feel like we're still making the right decision by harvesting what grain we can from it and go from there. And that's just kind of where I'm at. It's probably going to be more soybeans next year than corn, unless the prices really change. It's more of a market thing. It's just at what point how low can corn really get before it just flat out just isn't worth raising as much as we are. So a talking video, which I think is inappropriate for a Sunday video. I just hope I can get it uploaded in time. More maintenance this upcoming weekend. I won't be around for basically the whole weekend, or I'll be around, I just won't be able to really film much. So that's beside the point. So thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching and supporting the channel. I appreciate it. So until next time, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys later.